Well, I guess markets actually do know how to pull back. We've been going over Bitcoin's price, a little bit what's going on with the Hang Seng Index, along with some other tech stocks on today's episode of Money Never Sleeps. Welcome back to Money Never Sleeps. Happy Ides of March, March 15th. If you don't remember, our first episode that we ever did was about the Ides of March and how important this day is in the markets. Pretty important day today. It seems it's landed on OpEx, so we're starting to see what we saw a bit of it yesterday. Some of the markets kind of pulling back into OpEx, taking profit. Seeing a little bit of red today. It's gonna be interesting on the close. We're going a little bit early today. No JWeb. I gotta be somewhere later, so before we get into anything today, reminder that I am not a financial advisor. Nothing I say is financial advice. I'm just a guy, along with a couple of other guys sometimes, who love talking about the markets and getting into what's happening and how news and price action will affect markets. If you want to do any trades, you have to do your research on your own. You're on your own. Speak to your financial advisor or what have you. Has to be said. With that out of the way, let's talk about what happened last night. We had a bit of a pullback in Bitcoin. I want to bring up Bitcoin first because very interesting stuff that's been going on. First, we'll pull up a tweet here from the Bitcoin therapist. Man, I'm not here to bag on anybody, but we could see there that there it is. If you've been waiting for Bitcoin to move lower, I've got some news for you. It's not going to happen. Any drop in price is being absolutely devoured by the ETFs. No sign of stopping. In fact, inflows are heating up. I bought the top today. Okay. What time was this? 7:02 p.m. March 14th. I'll buy at the top at 100K and I'll buy the top at 1 million. If you're paying attention at all, the exact scenario played out last week. Then we ripped it to higher highs. So we'll talk about that and Wyckoff distribution in a second. Let's not forget Sailor's about to smash by at least another 500 million in BTC this weekend and then announce it on Monday. It's time to Monday is an interesting day as well. Or dive into that as well. It's time to start preparing accordingly. I'm not going to give price prediction for this year or next year, but anything under 500K wouldn't surprise me. Well, currently it is under 500K. It only takes one sovereign nation to go all in and send us to Alpha Centauri, Happy Hodlin. I don't necessarily know how 100% accurate this is, right? Some of it seems a bit tongue in cheek, but some of this also just seems like maybe they're pretty serious about this. I think it's funny. There's a few things I did mention and bring up, and the reason I want to bring that up is because obviously we saw price action of Bitcoin last night drop significantly. I'm going to pull up Bitcoin's price right now. And I think it's kind of funny with what's happening with Bitcoin because now it's a lot of people who were buying the ETF because they can't afford one whole, they can't be a whole coiner. They could be a whole share, though, of one of these ARK or Fidelity, or I think Fidelity has, everyone's got a Bitcoin ETF. It doesn't matter who or what, which one we're talking about. Everyone is able to buy those because they're so cheap relative to Bitcoin's price and you have exposure. I think that's kind of a foolish way to get exposure to Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin's the best exposure to Bitcoin. Look at me. I sound like Michael Saylor right there. But let's look at the smaller time frames here. Let's go to the 5 minute. And we're going to keep this kind of short today, just wrap this up. But it's really interesting to see what happened with Bitcoin last night, right? So we can see that's Thursday around 7:15, started pulling back. And this is UTC time, I believe. Kept pulling back, and then obviously we're seeing some pretty good pullbacks. But this is the one we want to watch right here. Right when we were at 71K, we went from the height of 72,414 all the way down to 65,598. And if we pull this up on the hourly, probably get a good idea of how long it actually took for this to play out, right? So it looks like one candle here, two candles, three candles. So say three candles got us down here, and then maybe 7 hours total got us to that low down here at 65K. We were talking about a pullback, right? We were talking about a pullback because there was something that didn't make sense when we were looking at Bitcoin's price. That was all the bearish divergences that we were getting in the market. We'll pull this up here. This little line here, that's showing that the volumes are coming down while the price is going up. Bearish divergence every single time. And we're seeing this across the board. We also saw the stochastic RSI was at an extremely high level for a few days there, right? They were at like 99, between like 80 to 100 for the longest period of time. I also see that the Bollinger Bands were starting to kind of get toppy. They were testing the top of them, and we hadn't gotten that explosion other than just riding this entire wave. Now, the question is, we're starting to see these Bollinger Bands kind of contract here. That's going to be really interesting going into the weekend. I'm not saying that it's going to have another pullback, but I definitely do think that we are probably going to be either testing this one right here at the top, but again, if how much are you going to have if you go to the top? Roughly, 12% or so, so about 8,000 or so dollar move to the top. I think $76. That's $76,000 is going to be an interesting level if we do get there. But we did dip lower than I expected, and this is a dangerous level. I mean, we went all the way down to the mid channel of this Bollinger Bands. I think we're going to have to test the 50 moving average on the daily. That's something that not a lot of people will probably be happy about, but I think the 50s is kind of something that Bitcoin needs to go back to. We'll start with just the 50. I do think it has to go lower than that. I think 52 is probably a really good level of support, but it's something that's very, vicious in this market. And I think a lot of people that were in TradFi woke up to, Bitcoin being down more than 4% this morning, and then they couldn't sell any of their shares until the markets opened. So that's kind of funny. That's why I say it's kind of almost better being in crypto at sometimes, because if something turns on you real fast, at least you can get out. Um, I don't think a lot of people in the ETFs were too happy to see this going into the weekend. So Bitcoin's price, obviously, extremely, it's down 3,100 right now. It's down a lot more earlier. We'll see how it plays out, but I don't think that Bitcoin is going to be something that's going to be exploding to what Bitcoin therapist was saying. I think it's going to be quite the opposite. And he said he bought the top. That was on March 14th. Sure did, buddy. And again, I'm not making fun of you at all. If there's a lot of people that like buying Bitcoin, and I think having exposure to Bitcoin long term in history might prove right. But I think for the time being, in terms of price action and all the divergences we're seeing, it seems like we're getting caught up in this euphoria. Now, the thing I wanted to pull up here is also, Bitcoin, this Wyckoff distribution method that we talked about in the past. I want to talk about it now. But we were talking about how we are pretty much in this, let's see if I can find the right one. Here it is. We're up in this blow off top. I think, no, it's the accumulation. I need distribution. Yeah, this is good. This is good. Yeah, the UTAD. So this is pretty much this distribution that shoots up higher than the previous levels we were trading. So imagine this being, high 60s, close to 70K. And then that's 73.5 or whatever we hit, this UTAD test. And I think that pulled out of it. Now we're probably going to test some of these support lines. Maybe that's the 60K level. And then if we go down into this phase E, we're probably going to be looking at somewhere around 52K, 50,000. I think that's a level that we could see. Again, it kind of lines up with a lot of liquidation levels. There's a ton of money sitting down there from people who went long around there, or even long a little bit higher than there. So it's going to be interesting to see if that gets tapped. And again, we're seeing OpEx pullback today. Not surprised. There's also a lot of Bitcoin and Ethereum contracts that are expiring today. People taking profit, people not wanting to go into the weekend with some of these gains. Interesting. So keep an eye on that. But I do think that we were seeing a distribution method where this UTAD on the grand scale of Bitcoin's price action is probably looking at maybe the 70K. That's big picture. And then a lot of the 50K and stuff like that would be some of those higher distribution levels. But I do think that we are seeing distribution 100% in Bitcoin's price. Let's pull this up on the weekly, probably see it better. Let's do the 3-day. 3 days good. We're seeing Bitcoin just shoot up like crazy here. Man, maybe it is a smaller time frame. So let's go 4 hour. Let's see. I don't know the 4 hour chart. Maybe this chart just sucks. But yeah, I think we are seeing distribution up here, right? We're definitely seeing people take profit. Then we're seeing a massive dump, profit, price shoot up, dump, price shoot up, dump. This is an interesting one here. This is going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. 76K, 78K. I want to say that's still on the table. It's still possible. I'm just going to say that I think that the Bollinger Bands are contracting across the board, and maybe not in the 4 hourly, but I think that on the greater time frames, we're going to be looking at some type of reversal coming in the next few weeks to months. Again, it seems like everything's a bit overextended on the monthly, on the weekly. Volumes are still extremely low. Just kind of seems like it's a little fishy to me. So we'll keep an eye on that. The other thing that I did want to bring up was Michael Saylor buying all those shares of BTC. that he is kind of a top signal. So we'll be interested to see how that plays out. But I wonder how this has affected MicroStrategy. Let's look at how they're doing this morning, because they had a little bit of a red day yesterday. Wow. Interesting. Interesting. I guess it didn't affect it too much at all. It's only down less than 1%. The reason I bring this up is because I believe it was March 20th, 2000. That was the day that MicroStrategy, everyone woke up to MicroStrategy down roughly 60%. And I say the Ides of March, this is an important important week. I believe it was, yeah. So let's see, this was March 17th. It was a Friday. So you can roughly equate that to being today, going into the weekend. Then March 20th, look at that, down 61% on the open, limit down. With Bitcoin's exposure, something like that is definitely possible. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I definitely do think it's possible, and we could see limit down across the board for some of these other stocks. Being one, let's take a look at Adobe. That was one that reported earnings yesterday. With Adobe's earnings report, we saw that they dropped significantly. I got to pull up this on the weekly. There, look at that weekly candle, down 11.6%. That's a big one. That broke to the 50 easily. It's sliced like butter. Testing probably the 200 soon, which would be 447. Not soon, but on the weekly, that would be the nice level of support I would anticipate. We'll see how that plays out. But yeah, below the 50 and the 200 on that move today from bad earnings. Here's the thing with a lot of these tech companies like Adobe, Autodesk, which is one that I've been bearish on. We also saw DreamWorks, who uses Autodesk and has used Autodesk in the past, announced that if they're laying off almost like 0.5% or half of every department today. So interesting stuff there. I think that a lot of the creative, software, the subscription software that's really expensive is going to be really problematic in the next year or so. It's just my opinion. I think AI also complicates a lot of this stuff because, for Adobe, you can be skilled and use the AI tools, but for the most part, some of these softwares like Adobe and Autodesk Maya and 3ds Max, those are a bit harder for the average person to use. It wouldn't make sense that they would be buying them. It would probably come from studio or production companies. So just a little fact there, but I think that there is definitely some value looking at this. Man, that's a big dump. I mean, it's down 15% today, Adobe. So this is definitely one that's showing you that we're heavy. I think Q1 earnings are going to be really bad. That's just my opinion. I think Q1 earnings are going to show consumers that, hey, maybe things aren't as strong as we thought. They haven't been strong for 2 years. I don't care what anyone says. Corporate profits haven't been great for a lot of companies for the past 2 years. But seeing this here kind of gives me the idea, emboldens the idea that we're probably going to see some more pain from Q1 earnings come April, May. Kind of lines up with the fact that we might see reverse repo drain, bank term funding programs over. There's a lot of narratives. Like I said, I said that the conditions are right for problems to arise now. It seems like April, May, probably going to be the time to see some of that come to fruition. But I think we are seeing the rumblings of that today on the Ides of March, going into the end of March. Let's see. One thing. Let's talk about that real quick, and then we'll talk about, the end of the trading day. Obviously, I won't be on for the end of the trading day. That could get ugly. But let's look at the dollar. Dollar out of nowhere is getting strong once again off the PPI. I know, crazy fucking lines. Let's get rid of some of those. But a lot of people were bearish on the dollar. I am not bearish on the dollar one bit. I've been bullish on it. I think the dollar does extremely well in terms of financial crisis. PPI is shooting up yesterday, being hot, obviously brought it up a good amount. It was up 0.5 percentage point. Today it's up 0.07%. If it stays sticky around here and continues to climb up, and inflation continues to be a problem, and oil continues to be a problem with that price, probably could see the dollar stay in this range for a period of time. So I would definitely be watching that, but it could also increase significantly if equities start to sell off, right? You know that the buyback window ended yesterday for a lot of corporate stocks, and boy, you would kind of recognize that from the fact that we're down 40 points in the S&P, down 216 in the NASDAQ, down 234 in the Dow. We look at the Russell, still in that kind of shitty range. It's probably going to test at 50, but didn't put in a higher high. It did put in a higher high, but it's going to be fighting to put in another one. I don't think we're going to probably see that. That's my opinion. I'm not trading this at all, but it's going to be interesting to see that. Now, the one that I've been watching quietly and I've been right up on the show is the Hang Seng. So the Hang Seng is in a really, really funny area, right? It's trading in this ascending triangle. It looked like it was going to break out of it. Didn't. It looked like it was going to break down from it. Found support. top of the channel. Here we are. Man, it was underneath it. It was going to test that 50 moving average, and it just didn't. Funny stuff out of there. But yeah, this isn't the most bullish setup, just my opinion. Maybe it tested the 200, but I think rejection, and we're probably looking at, that dangerous line that they don't want to see cross, probably that 15.2 or so. Probably coming down below that, maybe into the 14.8s. Again, we'll have to see how that plays out, see if there's any liquidity injections. I'm not too concerned about what's going on in Asia right now, but I am concerned about what Japan is saying, that they're out of deflation. I think that the Nikkei is kind of showing you that maybe they're pricing it in now. Nikkei is down roughly from the height, the all-time high, about 4.5%. Right, we're probably gonna test that 50 moving average. If I'm not a betting man, but if I was to assume, this is probably wave 1, maybe a wave 2 here, wave 3 somewhere in this range, wave 4, wave 5, maybe a bit of a bounce there. Again, I think the bounce is going to be more shallow and shallow the deeper we get into this year. But I think that this is kind of showing you that we're going to see some pain across the board in Asia, because next week there's talks of them ending the yield curve control. That's going to be interesting to see. Yield curve control, I mean, they last time that they raised rates in China and in Japan was 2007. We know what happened in 2007. And it seems like that's going to be problematic for them, because, wages have grown too fast. They're going to raise the rates. I don't necessarily think they need to, but again, I'm not a policymaker one bit. I think that we are seeing deflation globally, and a lot of people are worried about inflation. Just give it a few months, weeks, months. But I think that it's going to be interesting to see how the markets react to it. But seeing this central bank kind of take action, I would definitely be concerned to see, or not concerned, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of other central banks start to take action too. This is a big move. I think it's kind of understated, but Japan, if they do act in this month, but not in the April meeting, definitely for the markets in Asia, maybe watch out a little bit, because Japan was the saving grace for a lot of people who are fleeing China. If that starts to dump, does it go back to China? I don't necessarily know. That money's got to go somewhere. I just don't know where it's going to be. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out with rates being raised probably by the Bank of Japan in the next month or so. So it could happen as early as next week, could happen as late as next month. It seems like it's inevitable, but things obviously can change. Now let's wrap it up on the weekly. Just looking over a few things. 44 points down for the S&P. 239 down for the NASDAQ now, 270 since I last spoke. Seems like it is 100% what we expected. Stock buyback window closed. No one's supporting these stocks. Let's look at the tech stocks. Apple down right here today, 1.23%. Look at Tesla down 0.85%, again down. Nvidia is up $8, but it still hasn't put in a new high. And the interesting thing here is we got this bearish engulfing candle on Nvidia. It's going to be struggling to fight to break above it. Could it? 100% it could. I'm not playing games with Nvidia. I know that there's a lot of money behind it. A lot of people who definitely can make this mania go on a little bit longer than we expect. But this bearish engulfing candle, definitely something to keep in mind. Microsoft down almost 3% today. Almost more than 2.5% for Amazon today. 1.78%, 1.8% for Meta. Google down 2%, which after had a pretty good bounce back, it's down 2%. Netflix down 0.66%. Coinbase up a little bit. Funny though, right? The Coinbase, they were selling shares right up here. Came down after Bitcoin, as low as 222, I believe, after Bitcoin did the funny thing of dumping, $5,000 yesterday. So funny stuff there. Again, I don't care really, but it shows you that definitely people are taking advantage of the fact that the price is up so high. So keep an eye on that. There's a lot of stuff to keep an eye on. I think it's going to be a fun weekend, right? Monday is going to be fucking fun. I think Monday is going to be a blast. So we'll keep an eye on that for the open. We might not be doing a show Monday, but definitely for Monday, I would be watching tech stocks, seeing how things open, because it could be a very different scenario than what we have been seeing for many Mondays that have opened in the past, where it's just been up only. Looking at the banks real quick. Banks are all green. Funny stuff there. New York Community Bank, it's up 6% today. I don't know, guys. I don't know. Banks are funny. Banks are very funny. I will end on today's note with Bitcoin / Tether, because I think it's really interesting. And Benjamin Cowan, you guys know, into the cryptoverse, brought up a really great point about USDT dominance. And this is a pattern that we've seen in the past. I'm going to get rid of the volume too. We don't need the volume, but kind of shows you not maybe the behavior. I'll say the behavior. I'll be nice and I'll say the behavior of this market. And we can take a look at, let's get rid of the EMAs as well. This is the USDT's dominance against the entire crypto and alt market and how it's played. Obviously, it looks like we're bouncing off this line, but what is this line? This line has been pretty important and integral in the history of both Bitcoin and also crypto and obviously Tether. Let's go back in time to November 2021, where it bottomed on this line. What happened after that? I don't know. FTX and also June of 2022. What happened back here in April of 2021? Well, soon we got that summer crash down to 28,000 from, I believe it was like in the 50s or something like that for Bitcoin. Interesting. February 20th, what happened here? I'm not going to go into that one. June 19th, June of 2019, it looks like it bounced there. We had a bit of a pullback there, right? But, obviously February 2020, April 21, November 21. And here we are finally at this trend line once again, March 2024. Shout out to Benjamin Cohen for pointing that out. Obviously, I'm going to give him all the credit in the world for that because this is a good catch on his part. But it's interesting. What's going to happen? What's going to happen in the next few months? Who knows? But USDT dominance in the past has been any indicator of what will happen in the present or in the future. Or I guess we're in the present right now. What will happen in the future? Well, then I think it's going to get kind of spicy in the next few months. So I'm going to wrap it up with that. Nothing too crazy here, guys. It's have a good weekend. Honestly, we know where the market's kind of heading in the macro. Things aren't necessarily the greatest. I mean, Family Dollar's closing down. People can't afford to go to the dollar store anymore. I think it's the dollar store. I don't think it's Family Dollar, but or Dollar Tree. They're all kind of the same. But obviously they're all different as well. I think it's Dollar Tree. Anyways, if I was wrong, sorry, Dollar Tree, Dollar Store, Family Dollar. I don't know anything that's a dollar. We will be back next week. I don't necessarily know. I don't think we're going to do Monday. I think we both have some stuff in our schedules, but we're going to be excited. It's going to be a fun time. It's the Ides of March today. That close today could get bloodier than we expect. Keep an eye on that. But for the most part, thanks for being here, guys. Randy, Ace, Chris, House, Jay Webb, if you're watching this back. Everyone who watches our show, Scotch and Stocks, Leroy Jenks. Appreciate you guys always being here. It means a lot to us. And we're excited to do the show. It's been over a year, and we're happy to do it every day. Hopefully things kind of pick up in the way that we would like to see some action, get us excited about the market in the months ahead. Hopefully give us some great opportunities if we want to act on them. But I'm really excited for the next few weeks to months. I think that the conditions are definitely set for there to be any type of action in the markets now more than back in November, especially with inflation seemingly to creep back. But I'm excited. Hope you guys are as well. Have a great weekend. Take care, everyone. And we will see you all next time.